Yes, welcome back to Unintangibles. I am your co-host, Jeff Shuella. I'm here with Mo Aurora. Mo, good morning. How are you?
Morning. How you doing today, Jeff?
Doing pretty good, pretty good. Be honest with me. How much Week 1 preseason did you watch?
I saw a little bit. I saw about the first quarter of the Jets and Falcons on Friday night,
Okay.
and that's because I live in Atlanta and I'm interested in the Falcons, and they did not look good. So I'm trying to remind myself that preseason doesn't matter, but it matters to me a little bit seeing football players that I'm interested in for the coming season, even if only for a series, not look good. Something a little disconcerting about that, but that's all right. It is what it is.
I would have a tough time watching Jets Falcons regular season, dude. I'll be honest with you.
It's funny. The first NFL game I ever went to was Jets Falcons. It was on a Monday night, and the Jets won on a last-second field goal, and it was tough because it sort of clinched a losing season. It didn't clinch a losing season for the Falcons, but I think it put them at like 0-4 or 1-4 or something. And it was like, all right, that's it. This is gonna be a bad season.
Yeah, I mean, even through my whole life, I haven't been able to watch Jets football for very long. It's too bad.
No, it's only because they happen to be the team, the visiting team in the stadium,
So you watched half an hour, basically. You said
about, yeah.
okay. I'd say that's pretty normal. I think I went.
I have a feeling you watched a little bit more than I did.
Okay, so we have like a package up here in Canada where you can pay $20 a month and get all the games, including the preseason games. So I pretty much watched the first series of like 4, 5, 6 games. Just to see it's just nice to see the guys in pads again. Playing. I mean, I know it doesn't count, but it's just nice to see certain things. Like David Johnson ripped off a couple huge runs. It looks like it's just as okay.
I was thinking about it. I have a coworker who broke his pinky, and for a while he was dealing with that, and he was saying the most frustrating thing was that his whole body felt fine and was healthy and strong and like raring to do something, and he couldn't do any of the things that he wanted to do because his pinky was hurt. And that's how David Johnson felt last year, right? Like David Johnson felt like one of the best football players in the world and physically ready to go, but he had this one bum hand or wrist or whatever, and it's like, how much does that drive a guy crazy, So I'm happy for him to see him back on the field.
Yeah, no, I mean, he definitely made 2 nice runs, I think at least over 15 yards. It's just good to see that again.
Yeah.
Any takeaways that you wanted to bring off the top from preseason, something you read or you saw?
Well, I think I feel bad for Darius Geis getting hurt and for everybody losing one player that we're sort of excited to draft and count on. But this may have saved a lot of people from overdrafting him and just ending up with the latest in a long string of mediocre Redskins running backs but only in a starting position. So that downside was there, and now we've all kind of been spared from making that decision. And we've also lost a chance to have discovered a new great player who won people games, so it's too bad.
Football. Yeah, I guess he was arguably like after Saquon, the guy that everyone was mostly excited about. I think you're right. Like, I think it saves people from overdrafting, but it also makes RB2 a lot cloudier, even because I feel like he was kind of the next wave of the RB2s on maybe the top end of, ranked in the 13, 14, 15 of the RBs.
Yeah. And I don't think whoever either emerges or they bring in Washington, I don't think you're going to feel as optimistic about that guy as you did Geis, which tells me that obviously Geis has some talent to be excited about, right? But we're going to find out that like this is what just opportunity in Washington is worth. It'll be wherever Rob Kelly goes or wherever, if Adrian Peterson, they bring him in, or somebody like that. We'll see. But it's like, I don't think opportunity in Washington is worth all that much on its own.
Yeah. I mean, and just to go back to the Jets, I would take a healthy Crowell over Rob Kelly or P. Ryan right now.
Yeah, because he'll have a job at the very least. I mean, you look at the end of season rankings, especially a running back. The guys who like you would say he was an RB2 this year. it's not that he was an RB2 all year. A lot of them were an RB1 for half the season, or a lot of them were just like the 40th best running back, but didn't get hurt, or things like that. There's something to be said for guys like Crowell. Like, he's just gonna be on the field, he's gonna get the ball, he's gonna be okay, but like, he's got a job, right? You can start him if you have him.
And speaking of definitely not RB1s and potentially underachieving RB2s, Jerick McKinnon injured in practice yesterday. MRI came back negative. But Mo, we know, like, okay, so we're not experts, but you have told me all off season when we weren't recording here, you were low on Jerick McKinnon. Do you want to just share why you've been low since day one?
Yeah. I don't want to go overboard on how low I am. I think he's a really talented guy. He's a great athlete, and he's able to be an effective running back in the NFL despite not being very big. But he is not the Devontae Freeman version of that. He's not that to a Devontae Freeman degree. Do you know what I mean? He's pretty good at doing, and we know this because we've seen him get a lot of work because he's been pressed into action, and he's a good guy to, like, oh no, we need a running back. Good, we have Jerick McKinnon. But for fantasy purposes, it's not like we haven't seen him thrive with an opportunity. We've seen him struggle. We've seen him be effective exactly as we expect, meaning catching passes and being game for carrying the ball and taking some abuse. But we've also seen limitations, like not being able to run the ball that well. And I viewed him in general as sort of, like, you look in Tennessee, for example, you have Derrick Henry, who is pretty clearly going to be a up the middle masher or whatever, and Dion Lewis is going to do a lot of. It's like that's one job split among two people, right? Jerick McKinnon seems like he could have been half the job kind of guy with maybe or maybe not another guy there to do half the job. Maybe Matt Breida, but I don't know if Matt Breida and Jerick McKinnon together makes a running back, right? So I think McKinnon had opportunity to carry the ball more than a guy like him should. I don't think he would have been that good at it. And we've seen him get hurt, which I would have been worried about happening in week 5 or 6 anyway.
Would you make him an RB2 or a flex in your mind?
Depending on the size league that you're in, I play in our league, let's say, our 12-team league. He'd be a flex. In my 16-team league, he'd probably be an RB2, and he'd be an RB2 that I would try to avoid having. Like, there's other guys like him that I think I'd rather take a chance on. Like, honestly, like, I don't see what the difference. I think I'd rather have Kenyan Drake than Jerick McKinnon. Yeah. Before McKinnon got hurt, here's why. Like I said, we're talking about a lot of guys who a lot of like mixed backfields. You have one specialist and another specialist, right? And then McKinnon is a guy who I'm saying is a specialist who can't do both well enough. In Miami, it's a clouded backfield because there's a lot of guys, but like the one thing that we're clear about is, Frank Gore is Frank Gore, but Kenyan Drake can do both things well enough. He can run the ball and he can catch the ball. So if we're at least talking about a running back who can do both things, and so if he gets the opportunity to do both things, then he can do both things well enough to stay on the field more. And so I just like Drake's upside because he can do both things effectively over a guy like McKinnon, who I think is probably better at catching the ball, but is worse at running it. So
I don't feel good about both of those guys. I mean, we're obviously we're all going to have fantasy teams, and we're going to have guys we don't like in starting positions where we don't feel comfortable about. So yeah, that's just the way it is. I got to say, I've done 4 best ball drafts. I'm proud to say that I had 0 guys, and I don't have any McKinnon on any of my best ball teams.
Okay, any Kenyan Drake?
No.
Okay, so if you want to keep your teams a secret, it sounds like we're not talking about any of those players.
No, I posted my best ball draft. I did a best ball from draft.com. I joined the mini tournament. I posted that on our Twitter page. So I got Jordan Wilkins, and it looks like Marlon Mack is out for a few weeks. And those hamstring injuries, they linger, as we know. So
right. Granted, we are very amateur injury experts. We are WebMDs at best. So
we're amateur all the way through, but we've been playing for a combined 40 years. So
yes, and look what that's gotten us. Nothing.
So one thing that did sneak through Roto World, which I love Roto World. We all love the updates.
Yeah.
Aaron Jones returned to practice from a hamstring injury, which I didn't know he had. Mm-hmm. So you don't want guys with hamstring injuries. So Jones, this is not helping his case at all. He's got the suspension. Now he has a hamstring injury. Midway through a preseason. What is that? How does that change your mind for Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams?
Well, do you think it's a 2-game suspension, correct?
Yeah.
Do you think the 2-game suspension will ease your concerns about his hamstring a little bit?
Oh, yeah. I mean, big picture, probably yes. But the way we look at fantasy now is that we make big decisions based on this sort of information in mid-August. So
Yeah, I just think Jamal Williams is going to start with the job, and then Montgomery is going to have the job catching the passes. Again, it's all very simple, reductive way of looking at it, right? Because everybody's going to do a bit of both. But I think Jamal Williams has a chance to, if he's good enough, hang on to the job.
yeah,
And I think I really can't explain it because I can't explain why I'm unconvinced about Aaron Jones because I do see what people see. He's way more dynamic than Jamal Williams, right? He's a lot lighter on his feet and move around, stuff like that. Whereas Jamal Williams is more of a solid, straight ahead plotter kind of. Not a plotter, he's good, but like that type, right? And you know, but it must be though that's not all. That bounciness is not all there is to being a running back, and I think yeah, Williams has a chance to take the job and run with it. And if he gets hurt, then Jones comes in, and then maybe we'll find out that Jones is better all along. But messy. I think though with the suspension and now with the hamstring concerns, if Jones drops a little bit to where you get him and you're not hoping to need him for the first couple of weeks, yeah, maybe. Why not?
yeah. I guess I've been always like Green Bay offense. Everyone's excited about it, but traditionally they haven't really been a gold mine for running backs. The way the Patriots are, the way they run the ball in from the 5 in.
Yeah, the best Green Bay offenses I can remember, it's like, Rodgers is QB1 and he's got 1 or 2 receivers that are on good fantasy teams. And then the running back is also an RB2 on one of those teams too, but yeah, I don't think in a good year for a Green Bay offense that means Green Bay's running backs are one of the ones to have necessarily.
Yeah. All right. Well, final takeaways. My only takeaways, and it's only week 1. It was exciting to watch Kerryon Johnson. He looked great. He was able to make a few passes. He made some jukes. He had some power, and he had some speed. I mean, I know it was against the Raiders, probably the twos or whatever, but nice to see that. Royce Freeman looked all right, although I find he looked a little slow.
yeah. I was gonna say so. So I saw like a couple of nice plays from Saquon, from Kerryon Johnson, and from Royce Freeman. Those 3 rookies I'll talk about. Saquon had that one run, his first play, and that doesn't mean much because it's preseason, et cetera, et cetera. But the fact that his first play in the New York Giants uniform, even if any running back in that position would have made that play, would have had that hole or whatever, the fact that he had the presence of mind that he was ready to hit that hole and not like tentative on his first play of his career, like that's a good sign. Just as far as like a guy being out there, still got a long way to go. But like step 1, the first test, which was like, what are you going to do in your first play? He was ready for it. That's good.
Kerryon was ready for that too. They wanted to make sure Saquon had a nice lane in his first carry.
Yeah, and Kerryon, same thing. Like I don't want to overstate how good he looked, but the fact that he was given the chance to look good and he didn't seem hesitant, he was ready to do it. That looks good. For Freeman, same thing, but it just for some reason that game looked like it was in slow motion. I don't know.
I agree, man. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. Like his ADP is probably in the 5th or 6th rounds. He looked okay. He looked fine.
Yeah. And all you need out of that offense, like if you want the Denver running back, whoever that may be, all you need is I mean, we've been looking at CJ Anderson the last couple of years, like just a guy who can go run forward and get you 4 yards carry and gets you a bunch of carries. That's all you need.
Booker and Blount got those starts for Detroit. Denver and Detroit. So they went in, they dove half a yard, and then they left basically. So
yeah, and I don't think I don't take anything from either of those. Maybe Booker because you figure. So it's interesting because like if there was a competition in Denver, don't you think you'd get like Booker? Do you want to get a good look at Booker and a good look at Freeman, or is it just more a matter of like Freeman needs game action. Booker doesn't necessarily, but it's practice where we're making this decision anyway. How do you think it is?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Booker, is this his second year or it's his third year?
Second year, right? So, like to compare, in the NBA, second-year players still go to summer league, right? Because they got a lot of work to do.
Yeah,
I wouldn't think a second-year running back is a guy who doesn't need to play in the preseason.
yeah.
If they're not looking at Booker, then I don't know. Maybe they just know that Freeman's the guy they want. So.
Yeah, I think that's the case, man. I think they want to work Freeman in. They want to give him situations. Obviously, Booker could have stayed for more than one carry. We'll see. Anyways, preseason week 2 will show a little bit more. It'll unveil.
Yeah, I see a little bit more excitement because, like, there are guys who didn't play and who aren't going to play much, but they're still going to do something, right? Like, you are going to see an Odell Beckham catch in the preseason. You are going to see Alan Hearns or one of the other guys that we predicted. Like, who knows what's going to happen, right? There's still plenty to come. Still guys that, unfortunately, they're going to get hurt. And, here's the deal that I would make. If I can just put this energy out there into the world, rather than occasionally losing a guy here or there to an ACL, I'll be okay if everybody in fantasy has gets a little bit dinged up and has a nagging injury, and I'll deal with that concern at the time of drafting him versus we just don't have, Deion Kane anymore or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
does Baldwin count in that category then, or Baldwin's a separate situation?
Man. Hopefully, all these guys that have gotten a little bit hurt and then disappeared for the preseason, hopefully that's all precaution, right? And they're all there week 1. Everybody, man. Even Josh Gordon, he's not hurt, but oh man, however long it takes your mental health to get yourself in that position, man. Just be there week 1. That's all I want. Yeah. All I want is these guys to be there week 1, even if they all have hamstring issues. Fine. At least you're here,
And, as we go through the weeks, we'll definitely be able to give you a more inaccurate opinion as we go, right? So
yeah, exactly. Because a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. So we're going to get – we look like we're going to get this Kerryon Johnson thing right as far as predicting him being an ADP riser over preseason. So we're going to – I suddenly think I know more than I did yesterday, and which makes me even more wrong about how much I know. So get ready for some even worse opinions. Yeah.
Well, okay. So as we shift here, I wanted to discuss. I mean, I was guessing maybe 10 podcasts since we spoke. Fantasy football podcasts. How many podcasts do you think you've listened to in a week? We'll say.
I can't say for sure exactly. I'm subscribed to 10 or 12. I don't listen to every episode every time and this week there was a few that I didn't bother with because it seemed like 5 episodes on the same day dropped a tight end episode. Yeah. And I'm like, I can't listen to all of these, man. I know at some point I know how I feel about tight ends, and so things like that. It's kind of I listen to enough podcasts to notice patterns like that, and also give myself this choice.
I have listened to a single tight end podcast. I don't listen if I see tight end in the title. I'm not gonna listen.
I don't care, man.
Just
literally, it's just all just it was the day probably the day before preseason, and it was I probably would have listened to five podcasts getting excited about George Kittle, and George Kittle gets hurt. And then it's just well, I'm not going to listen to 5 news updates about George Kittle. I didn't care about George Kittle all that much in the first place.
Quick question for you. Okay, so we're going to end this podcast just discussing, end this episode talking about a podcast that I heard. So it's fun to talk about fantasy. Time does fly. How long do you think we've been on the air for, Mo?
We're shooting for 20 minutes.
We're shooting for 20. How long do you think we've gone?
25?
We've gone 19 minutes in.
Okay, good. No, all right, good. I thought so. It felt right. You're trying to, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're on cue here. Basically, kind of what I'd like to do on Mondays is at least discuss a noteworthy podcast that stuck out in my mind that I listened to. And so today I'm going to discuss the On the Couch podcast with Sigmund Bloom. I love listening to that podcast. You can find it at footballguys.com. Sigmund Bloom interviewed last week Warren Sharp. So do you know Warren Sharp, Mo?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's like the schedules guru, and he got his start in fantasy through, I guess, the gaming and gambling industries. When he was in college, he was trying to create algorithm models to see how the Vegas lines work and to see if he could find edges on some of the totals and some of the spreads and how we can maybe make some money and expose some of the Vegas lines.
Okay.
And so fantasy players. If you're serious about fantasy, you do look at schedules, right?
I guess, but how do you? I know the strength of schedule is a factor, but tell me how I should consider it.
So you know me, obviously. I'm too anal about the schedules. I probably use the schedule weighing a little too heavily. So you're talking Kenyan Drake. Kenyan Drake, if you're playing season long, he plays the Jags and the Vikings in the playoffs, in the fantasy playoffs. So that's something that would automatically turn me off of Kenyan Drake in season long. I know it's early, but that's scary. Those are two scary defenses.
Can I provide my counter to that then? Because I'm the one who talked up Kenyan Drake earlier, right? So I'll say this. Let's say I'm saying that I'm comfortable drafting Kenyan Drake somewhere and having him be my running back 2 or my flex or whatever. But that also, like you said, all these guys in that same group you're kind of questionable about. So like, even if I draft him to be in my starting lineup on day 1, that's a spot in my starting lineup that I'm assuming I'm going to have to trade to upgrade throughout the season. So I'm not necessarily drafting Kenyan Drake to start for me in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm more thinking of him as a guy to package, do a 2-for-1, Kenyan Drake plus somebody for somebody really good, or maybe that's what I'm trying to do. And I guess I should think about, like, at the trade deadline, that's maybe a time to think about strength of schedule, right? Or even to review past performance, right? If a guy's down and you want to buy him at his low, you look at, well, he's just played the 3 hardest defenses he's going to face all year, so it's going to get better. I mean, yeah, okay, fair enough. But don't not draft Kenyan Drake because he's got to come. Don't expect to use him in the finals.
Yeah, maybe not. I don't know if we actually put this out or I'm repeating the stat, but Frank Gore had 300 touches last year.
Yeah, you said that.
4-year-old. So, I mean, I think he's going to be there. I mean, sure.
You think he'll get 291?
Sorry?
You think he'll hit 291 again?
No, but even if they cut his carries in half, that's 150 touches.
Okay, so if he gets 150 touches, how many touches are left for other running backs?
I don't know. I mean, the Dolphins are going to be so bad. I mean, how many? Unless Gase wants them to run the ball in non-running situations, maybe. But
So yeah. See, okay. So what I think is, I don't think Miami will be good. I don't think Gore is going to do much to avoid Miami being not good. And I think that Drake would have to be not good for them to decide they want to get Caleb Ballage on the field more. But if I think that Drake is an okay player, then I think Drake will be on the field when things are good, when things are bad. Look, there's a Jarvis Landry size hole in the Miami Dolphins offense for only good offensive player on the offense, right? Like Miami Dolphins offense for the last few years, you can count on it being bad and it being having one good player that has to do everything for the whole team just to keep it like barely respectable NFL standard. So, right? And so now with Jarvis Landry gone, who is the one player on the Miami Dolphins offense who can drag it just to make it through an NFL game? And I think that's Kenyan Drake. I don't think it's Devontae Parker. I don't think it's Kenny Stills. I don't think it's Frank Gore. I don't think it's Caleb Ballage. I don't think it's Ryan Tannehill. I think Kenyan Drake is going to be the only good player on a bad offense. And because he can do everything, he will.
And that's actually a good point. Now that I think about it, like I know that like crappy teams always end the season really well. Like the Dolphins were great last year, the last 4 weeks, and like I don't know what the Browns stats were at the end of the year, but a lot of these crappy teams, they really actually play okay at the end. They have nothing to lose, and they seem to I don't know, play better and show some better productivity. So maybe I'm
I'll say this. I played sports growing up. I played football growing up, and any good teams, I was a pretty good player. But let's put it this way: if I was on a good team, then maybe I was the 3rd or 4th or 5th best player on that team. Any team, I've been on teams though where I was the best player on the team, and 2 things happened. 1, I got to find out that I'm a pretty good player, but 2, those were bad teams. When I was the best player on the team, it was a bad team, and I was like a good player on it. And yeah, I got to do a lot, and I got to like be the only one with like an impressive stat line or whatever, and like, whatever. And it's like, yeah, it's good. If there was fantasy youth football, I would have been a pretty decent pickup. But like, it was definitely not a good team. And so that's why I think I can be optimistic about a guy like Kenyan Drake, even though Miami looks dreadful, is because guys like Kenyan Drake, guys like Jarvis Landry, guys who just prove to be useful and effective, and like, even if the team sucks, they play hard and they're willing to make a play. Those guys do well on bad offenses, and they end up being wide receiver twos, running back twos. You know,
I just gotta be careful. Just hope that Drake is efficient with his touches, because he's not a bell cow at all. He's gonna get maybe 15 touches a game, so just make sure he's efficient in that offense.
I think half of those are catches, though. That'll be pretty good. You know.
So basically, just before we wrap, so if you're a fantasy player, you're watching this, and you're probably a hardcore player if you are watching this right now. But so there's two ways to look at the schedules, and I know that Warren Sharp and Evan Silva, they work together on several things, and what they do, I mean, it's easy to look at last year's stats and look at fantasy points against per position, or strength of opponent, which is another category. So you got to make sure you know what you're looking at. But they look at the current totals, the Vegas future totals, win totals for teams. So they project, if this team is only projected to have 4 or 5 wins, that is their strength of opponents. So they're not looking at last year's opponent. So I think Warren Sharp is really trying to use as current information as possible. So they use a lot of the Vegas total information. And I think that's good to look at. I mean, if you're projected to win 4 games a year, 4 games for the year, and you're playing that team twice, the AFC East teams, maybe you want to expose yourself to running backs that play the AFC East twice. So,
all right, help me understand. So I guess the idea is last year's stats don't matter because that was last year, and there's so many moving parts, you can't count on that. But everybody who's out there betting knows last year's stats and and is processing their opinion of how good this team is, how bad that team is. And then because there's so many people doing that you can take a wisdom of crowds approach to how everyone's reasonably decent assessment of these teams. Yeah, it makes sense. Shit, man. I mean, maybe it don't make sense to anybody who's watching, but it makes sense to me now. Yeah. The way I put it.
And I guess before we wrap, I think it's important to say that, I think matchups, schedules, and that stuff plays in the fact, it's more of a factor during the season when you're making a decision between this guy or that guy. I think in terms of opponent and matchup, and you can really nail down the exact information. That's a lot more valuable than having the overview of a season at a draft. I mean, it's a lot harder to do.
Yeah, and I think I definitely think your schedule also, but your assessment of a player's schedule, it'll change over the course of a season. And so, that's why I think everything Jeff's saying is great. I'll be honest, I'm not gonna think about strength of schedule that much on draft day. Not on draft day anyway. But as the season goes on, I think about that more and more because my perception of everyone and every team has changed. That's when you have to start looking ahead to you're trying to trade for people and who are you giving up, and that's when it starts to matter. If you look at let's say a late season Seattle San Francisco matchup, based on last year, that would have been you care about a lot of guys on Seattle, and San Francisco is not that good a team that they're playing, right? This year, it might be that San Francisco is a team with a lot of players that you care about, and Seattle's out of the running, and they're just the ones playing. And you never know. We'll know 4 weeks from now, 8 weeks from now. Who knows? It'll keep changing.
Well, okay. Well, I think that was good, man. I think the train is about to leave the station. We're almost half an hour in, but it's time.
All right. Well, but you know what? We do a good job of keeping ourselves on track for 20 minutes. Then after 20 minutes, we fall off a cliff. So we just got to remember 20 minutes. Once we recognize that we're around the 20-minute mark, let's start thinking about, okay, let's just find a good place to wrap it up. Okay. Instead of going on like we do. Because look what happened, man. You're trying to make a point about strength of schedule. I gave you a 5-minute monologue about Kenyan Drake being an okay RB2. You know what I mean? You didn't need 5 minutes. I could have just said, I think it'll be okay as your RB2, but no.
Yeah, but if you're watching this, you've looked it up on YouTube. You're probably looking at fantasy football. You're looking at some of these tags that we're putting in the video. So you're a real player. You want that's why I watch all the videos on YouTube. I want everyone's opinion as current as possible, just so it can help me make my opinion.
Absolutely.
So we're gonna put Kenyan Drake's tag on this video, and people who are thinking of drafting Kenyan Drake, they'll probably watch this for a couple minutes, maybe. We'll see.
Also, Kenyan Drake is tagged on the first episode too, because we're gonna keep talking about him. So
podcast, but I definitely hear the locomotive leaving. We're gonna try and do our best with timing. So Mo, take us out here, and I'll get us going here.
All right. So you want me to? Okay. So guys, we're gonna try to do an outro, kind of like our intro. So Jeff, do you want me to give you a countdown and then do it, or should
I'll do the sound. You just got to talk.
Oh no, I got the sound this time.
Okay. Well, I'm ready to roll. I'm ready to roll.
All right. You know what? Tell you what. I'll give you the countdown. You do the sound.
Okay.
And then I'll do the talking. Okay.
Beautiful.
All right. All right. Viewers, you're with us on this. Wish us luck. Okay. We only get one chance to do this. So hold on. Give me 1 second to remember what I have to say. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Countdown.
3, 2, 1, go. Thank you for joining us on the Unintangible. No, start again, man. It didn't work. It didn't work.
We didn't
work.
We
gotta
did.
do it again.
All right, one more time. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go.
Thank you for joining us on the Unintangibles. We hope you enjoyed the show. It keeps cutting out.
All right. Well, we didn't do. We'll get it next time. We'll get it next time.
Maybe here. Let me play the music. Let me play the music. I think it'll work if I play the music.
Play the music. Okay, go.
Yeah, because now it won't be competing back and forth. All right.
Countdown. Here we go. 3, 2, 1,
go. Thank you for joining us on the Unintangibles. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back on Thursday. Hope to see you then. Yeah.
Yeah. We're getting there.
Have a great week, everybody. See you soon.
Cheers.